Story 1-1. Bridge surfaces freeze before roadways because air hits them on two sides. The more angles in a roof, the greater the potential for leaks. Story 2. A man sacrifices for his family. He never preached it. He just did it without ever complaining. We needed reliable, stable money with health insurance, so he did the same job for 20 years. If they called, he came regardless of even a holiday. I resented it as a child, but I understand now. It is not like he wanted to, he had to. And that is a man. Story 3. That blood does not make family. Building bonds, trust, and love for one another does. Thank you, sperm donor. I have not seen you in nearly 20 years. I hope your new family is making you happy. Story 4. 2 things he told me that mattered. Always be nice to the secretaries because they run the world. Never trust a statistician. Story 5. Enjoy the present because you are not guaranteed a future. My father was always focused on the goal of creating a great future for his family, so he worked very hard. As soon as he was on the cusp of reaching the goal, he died at 42. He lost many moments in between, and then he was gone. Story 6. He taught me that consistency is love. Just showing up every day mattered most. Story 7. My dad taught me how to do many things that women typically do not do, such as painting walls, laying tile, and building various things. He taught me it is best to learn how to fix things yourself because there may come a time when no one else is available to fix them for you. He also taught me to be stubborn and to really push for something if I want it and can do it. I did that at work and now have a job I love. I may look like my mom, according to my sister, but I act like my dad and have the same drive he had. I am proud of that fact. Story 8. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. My dad is a recovering alcoholic. He got sober when I was around 14. Before he got sober, he said some pretty mean things to me. Most of the time, he does not even remember saying them. My dad has long since made amends. He is 12 years sober and is a licensed chemical dependency counselor. He has grown a lot and is constantly teaching me new things. I am very proud of him. Story 9. The strongest people are never the loudest. Being introverted, quiet, or shy is not a defect. It is a strength because it means you are more observant and pick up more in any situation and around anybody. Story 10. Tell your children you love them as often as possible. I cannot remember a single time in my life when my father said that to me. Story 11. Just because someone is your parent does not guarantee they have your best interests at heart. They have their own agenda and you may be in the way of it. Story 12. The day after payday, Dad put me in the car to go to the bank. He came out with a deposit slip and an envelope of cash. Then we drove to the water company, where he went in to pay the bill. Next, we went to the electric company and the landlord. This was the 1960s and it was common to pay bills in person. When all the bills were paid, we would get groceries before going home. Without saying a word about responsibilities and consequences, he was teaching me the importance of paying your bills first, then taking care of yourself. Story 13. Being a man is taking care of all the things that need to be done without advertising the fact that you are doing them or looking to get credit for it. Discipline is a form of love. Money is a tool and is only as effective as how smart you use it. My father had a rough childhood. His dad was an alcoholic and his mom was addicted to painkillers before that was recognized as a problem. He moved out at 16 and finished high school while working full-time on a night shift to pay for his apartment. By any reasonable standard, he should not have been successful in life. But he ended up with a career that brought him national recognition and allowed my mom to be a stay-at-home mother. Story 14. The lesson he taught me was that if you abuse their mother and abandon your children, those children will grow up hating you with all their heart. I do not know where my father is, but I sincerely hope he is dead. The world will be a much better place without people like him. Story 15. My dad was extremely competitive and always pushed me hard to excel in sports. However, he also hated to lose, and it made me feel terrible as a teenager. Eventually, I outgrew him, became faster and stronger, and was in my prime. He basically stopped wanting to play when I was better than him. He played basketball every weekend, so in his mind, he was just keeping in practice. But to a kid, it makes you feel like you just aren't good enough. What I'm saying is sometimes let the kids beat you. Story 16:1. Just because your father, my grandfather to be clear, is unpleasant, does not mean you have to be one. Do not date people who are experiencing bad luck. Story 17. Being gentle and kind is true masculinity. Saying thank you costs nothing. Always carry a fresh handkerchief. Story 18. Don't rely on men. Go get your bread and be independent in some way. Some men just think only of themselves. I see women complain about it a lot. Story 19. Families do not have to say I love you to be close. They show it through actions and loyalty. My dad rarely said, I love you, but he was always there. To this day, if I call in the middle of the night and need something, he comes. My in-laws always hug and say love you, but they have never helped when I was in need. Story 20. My dad treated everyone equally, whether they were senior management or cleaning staff, neighbors or strangers. He taught me that everyone deserves respect. Story 21. After constantly hearing the phrase life is not fair, get over it. I have decided he is right. Life is not fair. Therefore, I have decided to change that as best I can. Sorry, Dad. The suck it up part did not stick. Story 22. How to be a terrible parent and prioritize almost anything above seeing his family. I learned all my best dad techniques from doing the exact opposite of anything he ever did or said. Story 23. The number of things my father taught me is so numerous I'm not sure I could narrow it down. I was very lucky to grow up with him in my life. I truly feel bad for all the people in these comments who didn't get to have that experience and realize how lucky I am. Sad how cruel the world can be. I guess the lesson he taught me without realizing it is how to be a father and the importance of being present for the ones you love. Being present can manifest in many ways. Quality time, provider, and as you get older, a confidant or sounding board. Story 24. Best lesson he taught me. Patience and understanding, especially with people with mental health issues, because not everyone is capable. He taught me this without trying to. He was sick my entire life and lost his legs from diabetes, so I had to take care of him from a young age until he passed. Over the years, I learned patience and understanding by helping him. I miss you, Dad. Story 25. How to be the father he never was. My stepdad taught me how to be a father to those who are not biologically mine. My kids are kin. Story 26. Fix your mistakes. If you broke it, you repair it. If you got it dirty, you clean it. If it cannot be fixed, you replace it. You can say sorry, but that does not really help the situation. You have to fix your mistakes. Story 27. Do not work a job simply because they pay you. Wake up and go to the job you enjoy. That makes a person truly rich. Story 28. Not to trust him. Ever. If he says the grass is green, I look out the window to check. Oh, and I will call emergency services immediately for myself the next time I cannot breathe. Story 29. Attentive listening can sometimes be much more powerful than even the best verbal rhetoric. Story 30. Money alone cannot make you happy, and you cannot fix what you never built in the first place. He never told me these things. I learned them by observing his life. A life lived in pursuit of wealth while ignoring everything else. He has his money but no real friends. A wife who does not love him. 5 children who want little to do with him. And undiagnosed depression. All wrapped up in the classic toxic stoic male shell that he never learned how to break when needed. I learned from his mistakes. It is a gift he gave me without realizing it. Story 31. Be where you say you are going to be. Do what you say you are going to do. Do not call women babe, hun, or sweetheart. They have a name or a title. Show some respect. Story 32. My dad was a high school baseball coach for 40 years. Over the years, he lost many games, but he also won the state championship twice. The lesson is that you are not going to win every game, and sometimes you are going to lose badly. However, you can still be a winner, so do not stress about every little thing. Story 33. My dad taught me how to hold my head up, especially when the people around me do not want me to. He also taught me the importance of doing something right the first time. Story 34. What respect looks like in a relationship is that a Christian relationship lived according to the Bible can absolutely value and respect the woman. Anyone who lives or thinks differently is misinterpreting Scripture for their own selfish purposes. Story 35. My father was one of the worst people I have ever known, and I learned what kind of person I did not want to be by watching the way he acted, the things he said, and how he treated people. Story 36. Do not do anything to risk your integrity, even if other people are not watching. In a convenience store, if you try to pay for a bottle of water or candy bar and no one is around working, wait for them to come back. Do not take it. Pick up dog waste in a public park when no one else is there. Many other small things like that. Story 37. When difficult experiences happen to you, see them as an opportunity to develop greater empathy for others going through similar challenges. My father was a refugee from the Nazis and helped immigrants and refugees from around the world. When he arrived in the United States, he immediately recognized the racism against black and brown people as the same hatred he experienced as a Jewish child in Vienna under the Nazis. He later suffered a mental breakdown and was institutionalized while my mother was pregnant with my oldest sibling. He fully recovered but always worked to support those experiencing mental health crises. There are many examples like that. I have also seen people, including one of my father's cousins who also escaped the Nazis, who do the opposite. They decide that the bad things that happen to them exempt them from empathy. This is a toxic mix of self-pity and entitlement. It is an easy trap to fall into. I prefer my father's approach. Story 38. When I became a platoon sergeant, you can be tough as nails on your men, but if you denigrate them, they will never forgive you. Good advice for leaders and managers in every occupation. Story 39. Never marry your job. My dad was a career man first. His job and the people he worked with were always his top priority. We were always second, and he didn't hesitate to make us feel like we were in his way. Today, I'm 34 and have children of my own. It's important to be a good provider for your family, but never make them feel like they aren't your top priority in life. Story 40. Studying the Bible made me realize that it was written by people and not by a deity. This led me to deconstruct my own faith. The saying that the best way to become an atheist is to study religion is true. Story 41. You can avoid responsibility, such as childcare and housework, by taking up many hobbies outside the house so that you are never home. Story 42. Do not show up to a party you are not invited to. Meaning, if someone does not want you around, do not come around. Story 43. If it was meant to be, it will be. Basically, he does not stress about things he cannot control, and I am learning that too. Story 44. I told him he promised to do something. He said promises are made to be broken. I decided then that I could never rely on him. Story 45. The most peaceful life is being single and able to watch your shows without unnecessary drama from others. Story 46. He taught me how to laugh and have fun. My father is amazing with children. He is truly the very best father ever. Story 47. Math, debit versus credit, and how they offset in and out. And probably the most important lesson of all. Be yourself, follow your heart. Story 48. To stand against evil and wrong-headedness. To remove weeds of prejudice in the garden of my life. Story 49. My father taught me how to drink my pain away. My father taught me how to leave somebody. My father taught me how to smoke my load and go. My father taught me that you do not need anybody. Story 50. How I should be treated by a man. I am very grateful that my husband will be the best example for our future children. Story 51. He taught me many things. Most I didn't realize until years after he died. Tying knots, he taught me, has been an invaluable skill. To keep going and keep my cool no matter how hard it is. Many things he told me aren't politically correct these days, but they're the truth nonetheless. Here's one. Women are like tools. You have to get the right one for the right job. It's crude, but it's true in my experience. You can't cut a board with a hammer, and an opera singer probably doesn't want to live off-grid in the countryside. Of course, this applies to men as well, so don't get upset. By example, he also taught me not to be a mean person who can't express love and empathy. That might be the greatest thing I learned from him, by not being how he was. Story 52. My father taught me that I am worth supporting and believing in, even when others tried to exploit me and stop my PhD studies. I am grateful to have him. Story 53. How to pilot a boat and get my sea legs. He thought I hated fishing with him, but I loved doing anything as a kid. Sadly, we drifted apart. We still love each other but are different men. Story 54. Keep working to provide for your family, no matter how hot the day is or how long your hours are. My dad worked more than 10 hours a day in a small kitchen, and during cultural holidays, he worked even longer. He owned his shop and slept there overnight to prepare for the rush. Story 55. Never slam a door so hard when closing that you cannot open it later. Story 56. I do not know. He is extremely intellectually humble. He actually knows a lot about many different topics, but begins by saying that his opinion is coming from someone who may not know everything. Not acting like you know better than everyone makes people more willing to listen to you. Story 57. My dad taught me what love looks like. Showing up every day, even when you are tired and the other person is grumpy. He loved my mom until the day he died, which was 4 months after she did. He looked out for her and cared for her no matter what. He also put up with his only child, who was well-intentioned. Story 58. All that time I thought he was seriously saying someone would be out here trying to pass off worthless items. Story 59. I should never be considered a problem because if I were, I would be sent away to military school like he did with my brother. I am still working on unpacking that trauma over 30 years later. Story 60. Listen to him. He is right. He was right about college, the men I dated, the one I am married to, and recently a teaching job. Story 61. There is a place for good people in this society and the world. If you keep doing good and honest work, you will earn goodwill, and that counts a lot. Story 62. My father left when my mother was pregnant with me. He taught me to always stick around even when things get hard. Story 63. If in doubt, give way. He was a long-haul trucker moving substances like liquefied petroleum gas, so he was very safety conscious. He would take me in the truck with him back in the days when you could hide a child in the sleeper cab and would talk about safe road usage. He emphasized always being a predictable driver so other motorists could react appropriately. He said road rage was always a losing game, so just let others have their tantrum and drive away. If you approach a situation where you are genuinely not sure what to do, give way and figure it out. It's better to be honked at by an impatient driver behind you than to race into a congested roundabout and ruin everyone's day. The advice to pause and figure it out can be applied to nearly every area of life. If you are unsure what to do, stopping to think can give you the information you need, even if those around you get frustrated. Story 64. He was criticizing me when he said I was selfish. I get something out of everything. When I smile at someone, they smile back. I am selfish. I feel good, Dad. Story 65. Do not just grab and throw the nearest thing when you are angry because you might break something invaluable. Story 66. My guardian, because my dad had passed away, used to send me articles all the time on hitchhiking. I would secretly read them and they stuck in my head. Story 67. The meaning and prime example of misogyny is not daddy issues as the foundational cause. It is daughter issues he has not resolved. Story 68. How to be a true family man. My father was a fantastic husband and father. He and my husband could not be more different in regard to politics, religion, musical taste, hobbies, and so on. However, I have come to realize that I chose a man who puts me and our children first in the exact same way my father did, and I am very grateful. Story 69. My dad told me, no one is pretty enough to be useless. So work hard and learn everything you can. The second thing he taught me was to figure things out as best I can first, then ask questions. For example, if I were reading and didn't understand something, I would read it out loud and pay attention to the sentences around what I didn't understand. If I still didn't understand, I would use a dictionary, thesaurus, or encyclopedia. If I still didn't get it, I would ask. I would say 95% of the time, I figured it out on my own. Because of this, I have always been curious to learn and keep learning. It made school, college, university, and life easier. Thanks, Dad. Story 70. Dad worked hard to provide for us, so did Mom. We didn't appreciate any of it when it was our current life. People don't miss things until they are gone. I don't know when I learned the reality of that. I don't even know what I am trying to say or if I'm saying it right. Most of the decisions I make are the wrong ones. I use the wrong words, think the wrong things, and just try to stay out of people's way so I don't cause them any grief. I am mostly ignorant, but if you catch me on a good day, it will look like I care and sacrifice like my parents taught me. Just don't ask me to care about your feelings or cry in my presence. I engage stone form and pretend normal until the feelings are gone. Dad told me he has cancer today. I always wished I would die first, and in this world that could still happen, but it might not. And the thought of Dad being gone is really hard right now. I am a scared little boy still, and I want to kiss and hug my parents before sleep every night. Anyway, I'm a bad person. Don't feel anything for me. Story 71, The Stalemate. We haven't talked in a while. I should probably call him. But then again, he hasn't called me all this time either. So why should I be the one calling? Does he even want to talk to me? You know what, I'll get back to it in a month. This happens on both sides. If it bothers you that you haven't talked in a while, make the move yourself. Worst case scenario, you'll realize that there is a reason you don't talk much. Story 72. Live within your means. My parents never preached this, but it was just the way they lived. My siblings and I came away with the same mindset, and all are comfortable with their lives. Story 73. Loyalty. No matter how hard, old school, or rough around the edges my dad is, he has been nothing but dedicated to my mother. Through drug addiction, separation, and raising a mixed bunch of misfits, they still stand by each other's side with pride. Story 74. Not to be like him. He never left to get cigarettes. He left as soon as Mom was pregnant, blatantly and obviously. He went on to have 3 other children he actually cares about and a loving wife he doesn't deserve. Child support is a touchy issue, but it legitimately kept us off the street. Story 75. Who is not realizing the teaching of the lesson? The father unintentionally teaching or the child not realizing it? Story 76. Hard work pays off. Read the news. It makes you smarter than you think just by doing that. In today's distributed environment, I do not know how that holds. Maybe pick a newspaper and read it cover to cover. That is how we did it. You cannot just pick things that confirm your views. You must also challenge them. Story 77. Teach my son to do all household chores and cook for himself so he does not have to depend on a poor woman to do it for him his whole life, and so he does not damage the house if she goes on a trip for a few days. Story 78. Just helping people whenever he has the opportunity and expecting nothing in return. Doing good for the sake of doing good. He helped with things like changing flat tires, assisting people in figuring out what was wrong with their cars, and even picked up hitchhikers until the early 1990s. My mom said he was often on foot when he was younger, so he understands how difficult it can be, but I guess she eventually talked him out of it. Story 79. My father was not around and did not teach me anything. I learned from him that I need to be present and be a father for my children. Story 80. Do not start something you are not willing to finish. He had a habit of abandoning families he started. Story 81. You have to take risks. You cannot let fear prevent you from experiencing or trying new things. Just take the risk. It is still hard for me to trust my instincts for many reasons, but one thing I can proudly say is that I never let fear stop me. I am not saying I do not have fears. I have many. I just keep going while trying not to be overwhelmed during the journey. Story 82. Take care of your loved ones. Be a man and be responsible. Be honest, and your word is your bond. This is one important lesson. Story 83. How to save money by doing things yourself, but not become overconfident and know when you need to pay someone else. It has led me to learning how to work on my own car and how to fix other things. Story 84. I had this whole long thing typed out, but the true summary of what I have learned from my father is how not to treat people. Story 85. Treat the custodian with the same respect you treat the chief executive officer. He literally did this. It showed me to respect people no matter their title and to have humane expectations of everyone regardless of title and income. Story 86. That addiction runs in the family. It is not about how often, it is about how much. Starting and not stopping. Not abandoning your kids for a night out, not driving under the influence, not bringing drugs into the home. Following the law, wearing a seatbelt, and so on. I loved my dad, but he could have died so often and did not value us when we were little. Story 87. Reverse park. You are much more likely to be in a hurry next time you go out, and it is easier to drive forward out of a parking spot than to reverse out if the area is busy. Story 88. The axe forgets, the tree remembers. Those moments of rage that were ordinary outbursts for him have become core memories for us. Also, do not mix ketamine and alcohol, or you will start to die, and your children will carry the memory of your graying skin and having to revive you with them forever. Story 89. If you are going to buy a video cassette recorder sealed in the box from the trunk of a car at a convenience store and the young children in your car are yelling, "Don't do it," at least make the seller open the box so you can see the video cassette recorder is not a box of bricks. You do not want your entire family making fun of you for buying a video cassette recorder box of bricks for the rest of your life and then also at your funeral. Story 90. To value experiences with loved ones. To learn new exciting things forever. To never pass up a fun fact. Story 91. I am sad to read some of these. You all deserved better fathers. I have a good father. He shows up for me, coached my teams, drove me wherever, played catch after work, and worked for decades in a difficult job to ensure I had a stable home. He texts me daily to say good morning. I used to think he was too straightforward to consider doing otherwise, but then I recalled his father was an absent alcoholic man. He is intentionally doing the opposite, and he is great. So all of you with difficult fathers, you can be better than they were. My father is living proof. Story 92. Artists are common. Starving artists is a real phenomenon. Get a real job. He must be a psychic and knew artificial intelligence was coming. Story 93. 98% of what he was is what not to be. I hold on to the 2% and try my best to correct the failings, though there are many. Story 94. Children can be challenging, and some people may regret having them. However, as a gay individual, I do not have to worry about that. Story 95. My dad can have casual conversations with anyone, and I definitely learned a lot about conversational skills just by listening to him talk to people while growing up. Story 96. To raise my children in the exact opposite way he raised me. They turned out so much more well-adjusted than I am. Story 97. To be always friendly and welcoming to my children's friends, boyfriends, and girlfriends. My dad was horrible to all my friends, whether male or female. When I was raising our 3 children, I made a point of being friendly and welcoming to all the kids and teenagers who came to our place. We had many great times and made wonderful memories. Story 98. Never depend on a man for anything, and be in a relationship because you want to be, not because you need to be. Story 99. His not being there for me is making me be there even more for my little boy. It will not take him as long to learn things as it did for me. I will be there always. Story 100. In whatever situation I am in as a father, if I do the opposite of what he would do, I am probably doing the right thing. Story 101. My father's last lesson was not to fear death. After weeks of unresponsiveness, he sat up, smiled, whispered something to someone unseen, and lay back down. He died a few minutes later with a small smile still on his face. Story 102. Live below your means, even at the cost of independence and private space, to save and invest the difference. Story 103. How to truly appreciate music. If it does not kill you, walk it off. I am a woman now, still love music so much, and I do walk it off. Story 104. How to do things correctly. I am not a construction expert, but I have identified contractors performing poor work and violating building codes. I have also confronted repair technicians attempting to overcharge for unnecessary services. Having a father in the trades and observing him fix appliances and build or repair items around the house has been very valuable. Story 105. Do not make promises or plans you do not intend to keep or follow through with. He was notorious for that. Among other things, his absence is a blessing. Happy Father's Day to those who are trying to be good fathers. Story 106. My father and mother were very supportive parents. The best lesson they taught us was how to budget and invest money. All four of us children retired comfortably. Story 107. How to fish and how to maintain my vehicle. Change brakes, tires, alternators, etc. Sadly, I cannot do anything newer than the 1980s. Story 108. Never let a man lay a hand on you. He raised his daughters to be as strong and independent as his sons. Story 109. As children, my sibling and I, both female, thought our dad was kind of nutty. He would do things in public completely suitable for work, but still, that embarrassed us. However, as an adult looking back, I can see that both he and my mother gave us the freedom to be unconventional and to follow our own paths. I became a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics graduate in the late 1970s, before the term science, technology, engineering, and mathematics was even coined. My sibling majored in art. Both of us turned out just fine. Story 110. In 1968, I was watching news footage of a city burning during riots that followed Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. It was in a room full of men, white men from my predominantly white town. Someone said, "What a bunch of animals," something you might expect. My dad then told a short story about taking a train after being discharged from World War II, traveling through Kentucky on his way home. There was no air conditioning, and they needed to make extended stops to rewater, etc. The passengers went into a bar and ordered some beers, like a 12-ounce tumbler for a dime. He was standing next to a black man who also got a beer. After the man finished it, the bartender, looking him directly in the eye, took the glass and smashed it in the trash can. That was all he said, to no one in particular, while watching the TV. Any time after that, when I saw any kind of racial unrest, I thought of that simple act of everyday disrespect. Almost 60 years later, it still casts a shadow. He didn't tell me how to think. He just gave me something to think about. Story 111. You make the best decision you can with the information you have at the time you have to. You cannot look back to question it. Story 112. Don't put off everything until someday. That day may never come for you. Don't let a bad day at work carry over to your spouse and children. If you want your children to help with your projects, give them something to do. Do not expect them to stand around hoping to get some menial go-fair task. If they do not bring back the specific pair of pliers you wanted, do not humiliate them. Give better instructions. Do not smoke and swear and expect your children not to do the same. Children learn by example. Maintain a regular relationship with a doctor so you do not die at 42 and leave a spouse who has been a stay-at-home mother to raise 6 children. Watch your children grow up and be proud of who they have become, even when they do not share your tastes, values, and religious beliefs. Be proud of their independence. Story 113. Make sure you are able to stand on your own 2 feet and support yourself and your children after your husband leaves and empties the bank account because he contributed almost nothing. Story 114. That it was my job as a husband and father to work hard to support my family and to be frugal with my hard-earned money. Story 115. My father was a farmer. He worked until his fingers bled, all to make sure we had everything we wanted. I would give my right arm to be able to tell him I do not want things. I want his time. Story 116. Never order fish at a steakhouse, and never order steak at a fish restaurant. Beyond dining advice, I have learned this applies to many situations. If someone has a specialty, you are usually better off choosing what they excel at rather than what they do not. If you want something else, find someone who is really good at that. Story 117. Can't hack it? Get your jacket. Those are my dad's exact words. I don't remember when he said it, but these words stuck with me. It was his way of telling me that if you can't do something or you can't handle it, be willing to walk away. Be willing to admit that you're not good enough. It was opposite to the whole believe in yourself and you can achieve anything message that I heard. My dad kept me grounded. He didn't let me get too full of myself. He taught me humility. These words often echo in my head whenever I forget that lesson. Story 118. He taught me to never gamble more than I could afford to lose. Sage advice in this era of online gambling. Story 119. He showed me how to be the worst possible father. I was relieved that he died before any of his grandchildren were born. It saved them the pain of dealing with him. Story 120. How to take care of myself. Interesting though, I have two sisters and have asked them if dad showed them how to change a tire, shoot a gun, use a saw, drill, etc., and he did not show either one. I am a female as well. Story 121. Everyone else is not as knowledgeable. Maybe she just wasn't in the same mindset as you. Safety first. Story 122. You can probably survive anything, but when you give up, death will come for you. Because of that lesson, I went on to learn something else. If you walk with death like an old friend, he will not be scary when he comes to escort you home. Memento Mori. Story 123. It is strange because he was an engineer and he always said he solved problems in his dreams. As I have grown up, I realize I do the same thing and it works quite well. Story 124. Remaining calm in situations that could escalate very quickly, maintaining a composed demeanor. He was confident and resilient. Story 125. Mine used to always say, "Are you a man or a mouse?" when I complained about doing hard things. It is so profound now in adulthood when trying to reach goals. Story 126. Do not do drugs. His addiction killed him and kept him in jail for most of my childhood, and then he died. By then, we were no longer in his life. I was 15. He was 46. Story 127. Kindness and joy with children. I didn't realize until I had my own how much I just copy my dad's sense of fun and pure happiness with children, especially little kids and babies. Those enormous grins are not fake, and sometimes my face hurts from smiling so much after I play with little children for a while. Thank you, Dad. Story 128. In a marriage, it is important to communicate with your spouse often. You never know when they will harbor resentment for something you do not even realize you did or did not do. Story 129. The outdoors is much better than anything someone might try to sell you. It taught me many difficult lessons, but I am grateful for that experience. Story 130. I hate to say best lesson, because my dad taught me so many valuable things and continues to do so in his 70s. But two things stand out. They are not necessarily the most life-changing lessons I learned, but we had great discussions about these topics, and they put a lot of things in perspective. When I was a teenager, we were having a discussion and I was upset about a decision he made. I said it wasn't fair. He pointed out that life isn't always fair, and the sooner I accept that, the more content I will be. No, he wasn't saying you have to accept every bad thing that happens to you. Rather, sometimes the person who works out every day and eats healthy is the one who gets sick. The nicest person sometimes finishes last, and the best person doesn't always get the promotion or the job. He taught me to focus on the things I can control. I remember getting a test question wrong in a world history class or something like that in high school. It was a subjective question. Anyway, I got it wrong and was complaining to my dad about it. I admitted that the teacher wanted a different answer, but I felt the teacher was wrong and that it was a dumb question. My father replied that I have to learn to pick my battles. He said I would probably have been much better off just answering the question the way the teacher wanted. These are two very basic lessons that many of us have learned. However, I think younger people are less likely to have spent much time talking about these things. Story 131. Be kind, be compassionate, but look out for number one, and figure out where the line is to balance these three. Story 132. My father is a domineering leader. He lacks compassion and gets angry easily when people do not do things correctly. I have learned not to be like him. Story 133. I was dating a girl in college who had a daughter from a previous marriage, even though we were basically the same age. I was in the military before I went to college. One day, I was eating breakfast with my dad, and he asked if this relationship was serious. I said yes. He asked, "Is it marriage serious?" I thought about it and realized it possibly was, so I said so. My dad said, "Well, I don't know, son. I don't know if I could handle that, raising somebody else's kid." I just raised my eyebrows and pointed at my nose. "I'm adopted. He and his wife adopted me at birth. They are my mom and dad." He suddenly realized his mistake and tried to recover. "Wait, that's different. That's a different situation." I knew what he meant. Different generation, different values, and so on. But I just smiled, laughed, and told him not to worry about it. We had a great breakfast that day. What I learned in that moment was not only that my adopted father was truly my father, but that family is as simple as love. When you truly love someone, they are your family. I'm very fortunate to have family and friends all over the world. Literally, the sun probably never sets on my friendships. Story 134. The most formative experiences of one's worldview happen between ages 19 and 25. He had a traumatic accident in college which led him to an unhealthy level of religious devotion, in my opinion. I was raised to be as zealous as him until I learned about evolution, systemic discrimination, and sexuality during my own college education. Story 135. Depression does not mean you cannot do what you want. You have to get up and do your job. Keeping food on the table and maintaining health insurance is more important than the lies your brain is telling you. Story 136. Getting angry is not an excuse to throw toddlers, destroy things given to them, or shake infants. In fact, do not be more childish than your own child. Story 137. Do not loan out anything you are not willing to lose, and do not loan something to someone you are not willing to cut ties with if they will not return it. Story 138. How to discipline my children. Luckily, I was able to unlearn bad habits before the situation worsened. He was a difficult person whom I do not miss. Story 139. You can live a completely different life, and nobody will ever know or suspect you. He ran off because he had a secret family. Story 140. Take care of my health. He ignored his type 1 diabetes for decades, and the consequences were severe. After he passed, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and am doing everything I can to take care of myself. Story 141. Don't be unpleasant to everyone. He did not realize he taught me that because he was too busy being unpleasant to everyone and lacked self-awareness. In an effort to not be like him, I try not to be unpleasant to people who care about me. Thank you, Dad. Story 142. My dad went on 3 tours to Vietnam with a wife and 4 children waiting for him. He taught me to believe in something much bigger than myself. Story 143. Do not rob convenience stores at knife point, wearing a ski mask with your infant in the car parked around the corner. Do not get dishonorably discharged from the military for punching your drill instructor in the jaw because he deserved it. I wish I were exaggerating. It was like the movie Raising Arizona, except no one was laughing about it but him. His last words to me before I cut contact, 2 years and a week ago, were him calling me a coward for not wanting to have a 2 a.m. screaming match with him over the phone. Story 144. Using drugs can actually worsen mental illnesses instead of improving them. I am glad I did not go down that route he did. Story 145. The uglier a bush is, the harder it is to get rid of. My father told me that, and I'm sorry, it's one of the few things my father said to me that I actually remember. I even quoted it to my neighbor last week because I have one of the ugly bushes. It has been cut to the ground twice, and it just spreads out more each time it comes back. I have to remove its roots and soil. Everything it has contact with has to go too. Story 146. Unkind people continue their lives as if nothing happened. They do not care that you spent your birthdays feeling you were not good enough for them to show up, while everyone else only cares about him abandoning his only son, not you, his daughter. Story 147. How to treat your partner. I have done the opposite of everything he did, and I am a wonderful husband in a very healthy relationship full of love, communication, and trust. Story 148. The most important decision you will ever make in your life is who you marry or have children with, if you choose to do so. Story 149. My dad encouraged my brothers and me to start a potato business one summer. He paid for the seed potatoes, tractor fuel, and other expenses. At the end of the summer, we thought we were rich. Then he handed us an invoice for all the expenses, including his time. He explained that we also needed to save money for seed potatoes the following year. I am now self-employed, not in farming, and often think about how much that summer taught me and how grateful I am for that. Story 150. My dad taught me many things. I can do it myself as well as the best of them. I'm not afraid to hop on his motorcycle to move it so I can get my all-terrain vehicle out for a ride. He's taught me a lot about fixing cars, farm machinery, and recreational vehicles. The fact that I know how to fix things better than most of the men makes dating hard, but it has helped me avoid the wrong ones. I'm single because I can take care of my own things. I have found that it intimidates men that I don't need them, but I enjoy my peace without those who would hold me back. He taught me self-reliance, which has brought me peace in my solitude. Story 151. If your partner is not enthusiastic about trying to have children and being an active parent, they are not ready to be a parent. So do not have children with them. It is that simple. It is not fair to the children, yourself, or your partner. My father told me when I was 12 or 13 years old that he never wanted children. He only agreed to make my mother happy. It is no surprise they divorced when I was 2, and he was not very present in my life. He was a good person, just not meant to be a father. Story 152. My dad was an accomplished fisherman. He invented several fishing tools that are widely used around the world today, including diamond jigs and snap-on swivels, which were his top contributions. He was well regarded in the industry, frequently invited to be a puller on tuna charters, and won many fishing tournaments. When I was younger, maybe in my 30s, I asked him to teach me what he knew. I figured that even if I didn't share his passion, at least he could pass down his knowledge to me, and I could then pass it to my son or grandchild. He would tell me, "You just don't have the knack, that it's something you're born with." As he got older, I told him that although I may not become as skilled a fisherman as he was, at least his skills and knowledge would not be lost when he passed. He is now too old to fish and has forgotten almost everything he knew. It makes me sad because fishing defined him. It makes him sad that he has no one to pass his knowledge to since he does not remember it. This experience taught me not to be possessive of knowledge. In the words of Linus Torvalds, only wimps use tape backup. Real men just upload their important stuff on file transfer protocol and let the rest of the world mirror it. Pass that on. Story 153. Do not look for people who do not look for you. I said that all the time when I was a teenager. I thought it was dumb, and now I live by it. Story 154. My dad was promoted to vice president of operations at a company. He had worked there since he was 16, starting in the loading bay, and eventually worked his way up to vice president. Within a year of his promotion, the company was bought out. The new owner wanted to replace management with their own staff and had my dad be the person who told all the managers that they were fired. My dad resisted. After all, he had been responsible for hiring half of them and had worked his way up knowing all of them. But in the end, he followed orders and did what he was told. After he had fired them all one by one, the new president came up to him and said, "I know that this was hard on you. Tell you what, you have a bunch of vacation time accrued. Take a vacation, and when you come back, there will be a nice bonus waiting for you." When he returned from his 2-week vacation, he found his bonus on his desk. It was a cardboard box with all his belongings and a pink slip. He was fired at 53 years of age, with only about a year and a half left until his pension would have vested. So what I learned from my father is this: never be loyal to a company because a company will never be loyal to you. Story 155. It taught me that everything in life can be replaced. It taught me that for some people, it is easier to create a new family than to face the grief of the past and take care of the one you already have. Story 156. My mom was a mother and worked full-time outside the home. My dad made every effort to do many things around the house to help her. He never shied away from cleaning. She never had to carry anything but her purse. He did the grocery shopping. She never had to fill her gas tank. Her car was always clean and perfectly maintained. He held hands with her. My wife now enjoys all those things as well. Story 157. If you want anything in life, you go get it. No one is going to ever give it to you served on a silver platter. Story 158. That anger is often a pointless distraction. My father did not have a great childhood, to say the least. He was able to pull himself out of a tough situation thanks to the military, but he was definitely left jaded by many experiences. As he got older, he showed more anger at almost everything. At this point in life, I have seen how his unresolved anger eats away at his well-being, and it harms every relationship he has. Watching him try to navigate his later years is like watching a child learning about emotions for the first time. It is disappointing, but I have removed that bitterness. We still interact and spend some time together as a family, but after years of trying to talk things out and reach a place of peace, I cannot and will not spend more time feeding his negativity. I wish him well, but know that there will continue to be mental health issues he refuses to address. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.